It's 4:12 p.m. on the 9th of November 2025. In the Caribbean waters just off the coast of Venezuela, the US destroyer Farragut moves on a routine patrol when everything changes in 1 second. A sharp alarm erupts through the radio. A long, rising tone that cuts through the calm like a knife. No message. No warning. Just pure tension filling the bridge. I watch the crew turn toward the combat screen as a new signal appears on the radar. It's bright, strong, and coming straight from the Venezuelan shoreline. For a moment, no one speaks. They all know what a signal that strong usually means, but nobody wants to say it first. Then, a second alarm hits, even louder than the first. A young sailor leans forward and whispers what everyone else is already thinking. It looks like a Bastion missile system powering up. That kind of system doesn't send friendly signals. The commander steps closer, his eyes locked on the radar. The entire ship goes quiet as he asks the question that decides everything. Is this a real launch, or the first shot of a much bigger fight? What happens on that radar screen matters far beyond one ship in the Caribbean. For months, US intelligence has watched Venezuela rebuild parts of its coastal defenses with strong Russian help. New radar stations, new operators, and the return of the Bastion P missile system armed with fast P-800 anti-ship missiles. These missiles are normally pointed at NATO fleets in distant regions, not at US ships only a few hundred miles from Florida. That shift alone changes the balance of power in an area the US Navy has controlled for decades. Venezuela did not make this move in a vacuum. Years of sanctions, restrictions on oil sales, blocked accounts, and pressure from Washington pushed the country into a deeper partnership with Moscow. When the economy collapsed, Russia stepped in with fuel deals, financial support, and advanced weapons. For Venezuela, the message was simple. If the US pushes, they will push back. And now, for the first time, that push is visible on radar. For the sailors on the Farragut, this moment feels personal. These waters are close to home. Families live just a short flight away. Thousands of cargo ships pass through these lanes every week. One wrong move here could shake the whole region, not just two governments. A missile launch in the Caribbean isn't like a launch on the far side of the world. It sends a signal straight into America's front door. This is why the crew moves with such focus. They know they are not just tracking a threat. They are standing in the middle of a political and military shift that has been building for years. Venezuela's choice to power up that system shows the world that they are willing to test the limits of American patience. Russia knows this. Washington knows this. And every sailor on the Farragut can feel the weight of it. If you were watching this tense moment unfold, would you see Venezuela as the one pushing too far? Or would you say the US brought this on by pressuring them for too long? Tell me what you think by pressing 1 or 9. Your call helps guide how we tell the next part of the story. This is why the crew moves with such focus. They know they are not just tracking a threat. They are standing in the middle of a political and military shift that has been building for years. Venezuela's choice to power up that system shows the world that they are willing to test the limits of American patience. Russia knows this. Washington knows this. And every sailor on the Farragut can feel the weight of it. The watch officer reacts fast. Set Condition 1 Alpha. Bring up the full system. Red lights come on as the ship locks down. The radar image brightens, pulling in more detail, and the computer tags the pattern with a Russian code tied to the Bastion missile system. No one doubts it. They've trained for this, but today it isn't a drill. The commander steps forward. How long until launch? Could be 5 seconds, the operator replies. Maybe less. There's no time for hesitation. The commander orders the SM-6 interceptors to be readied. A sailor pauses for just half a heartbeat before pressing the authorization key. That small moment shows how real this feels. But once he presses it, the crew moves with full focus. Suddenly, the radar spike jumps. A heat plume appears. Missile launch! Bearing 210! The room fills with fast voices as the crew confirms the threat and adjusts the ship's position. The commander steps forward. How long until launch? Could be 5 seconds, the operator replies. Maybe less. In the sonar room, a young tech listens to the echo of the missile rushing through the air. She confirms it hasn't changed direction. Her voice stays calm, but her hand shakes as she grips her headset. On the main screen, the intercept markers race toward the incoming missile. The commander keeps his eyes locked on the display. This is the first real Russian-made missile threat against a US ship in the Caribbean in decades, and the crew feels the weight of it in every breath. The last seconds stretch out. The missile keeps coming. The intercept icons close in, and no one in the room knows yet if they will stop it in time or if this moment will explode into something far bigger. The first SM-6 shoots upward, but the P-800 doesn't slow. It drops fast into sea skimming mode. Flying so low, the radar operator has to adjust the filters just to keep it on the screen. "It's going low," he says, and everyone understands what that means. A missile flying this low gives the ship only seconds to react, and every mistake becomes dangerous. Before anyone can settle, a second heat spike appears. Then a third. Venezuela has fired a full salvo. For a short moment, the CIC goes silent as the reality hits them. A US destroyer in the Caribbean is now facing several Russian-built missiles at once, something most sailors never expected to see in their careers. The Farragut fires again. 2 more interceptors launch with sharp blasts that shake the deck. The commander orders a slight turn to tighten the intercept angle. Even a small change matters when missiles are coming in at more than Mach 2 and closing the distance fast. On the radar, the P-800 seconds split their approach, coming from 2 angles. It's a classic Russian tactic designed to stretch defenses thin. The commander calls, "Keep spacing," and the team adjusts without hesitation. The radar lines close. The missile keeps coming. The bridge crew braces. Smoke from the last launch drifts across the deck. This moment will shape what message the world hears next, whether the US stands firm or gets pushed back in a region it has controlled for decades. The first SM-6 meets its target mid-air. A white flash fills the camera feed, followed by a rolling echo across the water. The room exhales, but the tension remains. Another missile is still coming, low, fast, and aggressive. The Farragut fires again. The new SM-6 climbs sharply, while the incoming missile sinks even closer to the waves, almost scraping the surface. The ship makes another small turn, trying to widen the intercept window just enough to make the shot possible. Inside the CIC, no one says a word. The commander's eyes stay locked on the screen. Every tick of the clock feels heavy as they wait for the final moment. The first SM-6 meets its target mid-air. A white flash fills the camera feed, followed by a rolling echo across the water. The room exhales, but the tension remains. Another missile is still coming, low, fast, and aggressive. And watching this play out, what would you do? Should the Farragut hold its ground or step back before things get even bigger? Press 1 if they should stand firm, or 9 if pulling back is the smarter call. Just when the Farragut finally gets a clean intercept path, the radar shows something no one expects. The P-800's signature flickers. It's quick, barely a blink, but enough to make the radar tech stop talking mid-sentence. "Seeker glitch?" he asks. The electronic warfare specialist checks again. Not a glitch. That's a ghost signal from the coast. They're feeding a false target. The room tightens. This is a known Russian tactic. Project a second fake radar return behind the real target so defenders lose track. The first missile fell for the Farragut's decoy drone, but this second one reacts to the Venezuelan reflection instead. Slowly, the missile drifts off the Farragut's direct line. For a second, it looks like good news. But then, the updated map appears. The new path leads straight toward the Coast Guard cutter James, cruising several miles behind the destroyer. The James calls in. Their voice is steady but tense. "We see the track. We're moving. Anything helps." The Farragut tries to shift the intercept, but the angle is tight and the missile is too low. They need more seconds than they have. At Mach 2, the distance disappears fast. Worse, another P-800 is still coming toward the Farragut from the right, forcing the commander to split attention in the middle of a live engagement. Every screen is full of warning tones and countdowns. The CIC is locked in absolute focus. No one knows yet that this sudden change, the missile being pulled off its line, may be the most dangerous moment of the entire fight. The missile keeps racing toward the cutter, and the Farragut has only seconds left to stop everything from turning into a disaster. The room tightens. This is a known Russian tactic. Project a second fake radar return behind the real target so defenders lose track. The first missile fell for the Farragut's decoy drone, but this second one reacts to the Venezuelan reflection instead. Slowly, the missile drifts off the Farragut's direct line. "Second burst now," the gunnery officer shouts. The CIWS fires again, harder, louder. Sparks scatter off the water as the rounds hit the missile's nose cone. The P-800 shakes, drops a little, and finally slows enough for the next step. "SEM-2 ready. Launch!" The interceptor blasts off the deck. The flash lights the bridge. The missile climbs, turns sharply, and races toward the incoming threat. 3 seconds pass. 2, 1. A bright explosion fills the sky. Debris rains into the ocean with sharp splashes. The CIC finally exhales only for a moment. Last missile is still inbound. This third one flies even lower, almost touching the surface. The radar tech calls out shrinking distances that barely feel possible. At this speed, they have seconds. The commander grips the console. "I need a clean angle." The helmsman throws the ship into a hard turn. The deck tilts, gear rolls, lights flicker, but the turn works. The CIWS gets a new firing line. This third one flies even lower, almost touching the surface. The radar tech calls out shrinking distances that barely feel possible. At this speed, they have seconds. The P-800 loses lock. It drifts. It drops lower. The commander grips the console. "I need a clean angle." The helmsman throws the ship into a hard turn. The deck tilts, gear rolls, lights flicker, but the turn works. The CIWS gets a new firing line. For a moment, no one says anything. The only sound is the steady hum of the systems winding down from full alert. The commander finally speaks. "Hold position. Keep scanning. We're not done until we're sure." Outside, the waves settle again, but the crew knows the truth. They were seconds away from losing the ship, and possibly much more. Standing in the CIC, watching the last ripples fade, you can feel how close this came to being a disaster. If you had to choose how the US should respond after a strike like this, what would you do? Press 1 if the response should be strong, or 9 if pulling back is the smarter move to avoid something bigger. As the sun begins to drop, the fight is over, but the tension is still heavy across the Farragut. The ship slows to a steady pace, scanning every angle in case another launch appears. The Coast Guard cutter James moves back into formation, its crew silent, knowing how close they came to being the target. Once the reports are in, the picture is clear. 3 P-800 missiles were fired, 2 were intercepted, 1 lost guidance and crashed into the sea. No US ships were hit, no injuries. But the meaning behind the attack is far larger than the result. A country only a few hundred miles from Florida just used advanced Russian missiles against a US destroyer in real combat, something no one expected to see in the Caribbean. For the Navy, this changes the map. A few truck-mounted launchers forced a billion-dollar warship to fire multiple expensive interceptors. It proves how quickly a small country with the right weapons can pressure a major naval fleet. It also shows that the Caribbean, long seen as a quiet region, can turn dangerous in seconds. Washington begins reviewing every second of the event. Why did Venezuela fire? Who ordered it? And why did the coastal radar suddenly shut down in the middle of the attack? Analysts debate whether it was a mistake, fear of escalation, or a deliberate signal from Caracas or Moscow. On deck, some sailors stand in the wind, staring at the fading smoke. The coastline in the distance no longer looks routine. Tonight it proved itself as a real threat. The crew understands how close they were and how different the outcome could have been. This event will ripple worldwide. Russia is watching. China is watching. Allies across the region are watching. One salvo has forced the US to rethink how safe its own neighborhood really is. And everyone knows the next exchange might not end this cleanly. As darkness settles, the Farragut holds its position. The mission continues, but the sense of safety does not. The Caribbean is no longer just a patrol zone. Tonight, it became a front line.